All right. Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you may be. Thanks for joining Smart Signals webinar. We'll probably get started in about 30 seconds or so. Wait for a few more people to filter in, and we'll get going. All right, let's get started. Everybody, thank you for coming to our webinar. Welcome to the webinar, Smart Signals, Outwit Fraud with Real-Time Actionable Device Intelligence. Thanks so much for attending. My name is Kevin Roy. I'm a product marketing manager here at Fingerprint, and with me today is our head of product, Jack Spirou. Just a few housekeeping things. We encourage you guys to ask questions as you think of them. We will have the Q&A question and answer functionality on the Zoom open throughout the entire meeting. So as you think of the questions, write them down in the chat, ask them freely, and we will spend a few minutes towards the end of the webinar asking or answering those questions. As for the agenda for the webinar, we'll start by talking about the challenges about the speed of fraud, the need for device intelligence, an intro into the new smart signals. Jack will give a live product demo. We'll talk about a few case studies of current clients of ours, how you can get started with smart signals, whether you're new to Fingerprint or you're an existing Fingerprint client, what's next for the Fingerprint product team, and then we'll answer some questions towards the end. Let's go ahead and get started.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. So we'll talk a little bit to start about the speed of fraud. Fraud is always changing. Fraud is always moving quickly, and there are new types of fraud that come up and new ways to execute frauds, new techniques, and new strategies. And so one of the things that we want to talk about today is just how pervasive fraud is as a problem statement and how it's evolving very quickly. So to begin with, human fraudsters can conceal their identity. We see this even with non-sophisticated actors, right? So folks that can easily go into Incognito, use VPNs or private relays, leverage privacy or cookie blocking in terms of their browser settings, and maybe gain access to other tooling that might be a little more sophisticated or increase their sophistication. The second type of fraud that we really kind of want to zone in on or hone in on would be sophisticated bots. So there are many different types of bots. Some are more sophisticated than others. There are some that actually mimic human behavior, some that are able to leverage mouse movement, time on page, things like that in order to make them seem like they're human when they're not. And then finally, right, different kinds of signals that they can mimic as well to try to be human or appear to be human, such as maybe the IP address that they're coming from or the user agent that they have. And then finally, it's very hard to keep up with the fraud landscape, especially with SaaS applications, that are leveraging, maybe either different types of browsers or Android or iOS for mobile applications, because they're just hard to keep up with. What we tend to find is that we have a whole team here at Fingerprint that is working on ensuring that we are staying up to date with the latest browser changes and updates to Safari, to Chrome, to Firefox, to Brave, making sure that whenever those browser and OSs change and how they behave change, our product changes as well to make sure that we are accounting for those new updates that are constantly occurring in browsers. In terms of the threats and the areas of threat, the surface area that when it comes to different risks, we like to think of it in three different spots, right? Especially for fingerprinting and identification. Really, it's around sign up, right? Protecting your sign up page, protecting your login page, or even protecting your payments page. For sign up, you can think of it as maybe threats or use cases such as trial and promo abuse, making sure that someone isn't just using multiple email addresses to eat up your marketing budget for maybe a free trial or for a promo. Fake accounts, so again, making multiple accounts, maybe fake accounts, having multiple accounts. And the issue here really can be lost revenue, right? So again, you're either losing revenue directly, right, through multiple accounts or sharing accounts or having fake accounts, or through, again, trial and promo abuse, right, where you're eating up a marketing budget or eating up a budget in order to try to create more intake on your top of funnel. In terms of login, account takeover, ATO, or account sharing, right? Think of, maybe Netflix sharing subscriptions. And again, the impact to those threats or lower engagement due to login friction, maybe potentially because you're trying to stop ATOs, right? So you're including maybe different types of multi-factor authentication. One nice thing is if you know the user, if you know the browser, if you know the identity of somebody, you can reduce the risk and include a second factor, right? Which might be that visitor ID or that identification of a browser or a device, and not have to ask for other forms of multi-factor authentication. So again, you're really increasing the usability of your login and getting that security that you need along the way. The impact as well could be an increased burden on support. So, people calling in trying to, log into your product, but they have a hard time doing so. And so they need to ask for help or reset an account. Payment. So again, for payment pages or for transactions, stolen credit cards, money laundering, fraud. There's a lot of these different types of threats on the payment side that we kind of know of. And of course, the impacts there can be anything from, different types of low approval rates to even something, like damage to your reputation, or, finally to your bottom line, right? Such as chargebacks and liability for chargebacks. And so these are the vectors that we tend to see when it comes to, the existing fraud landscape around these surface areas, such as sign up, login, and payment or payment transactions. Now, of course, the outcome for all of these things, no matter what different use case, no matter where your surface area of threat could be from a fraudulent standpoint, all of these, increase, SaaS and infrastructure costs. All of these, could, have some kind of implication on unreliable analytics. And finally, a lot of time spent worrying about abuse and fraud versus growing your business, right? Which is what you primarily want to be doing, is focused on, the next stage of your, a product and your company and growth, versus worrying about all the abuse that's taking, that's really, kind of dragging you down and becoming, headwinds for you as you move on to the next stage in your company. So what we have heard from the industry, what we've heard from our customers, what we've heard from our users has been that, in order to combat these challenges that I just outlined, a great need for device intelligence, not just device identification. And so one of the most common things I hear from our users are coming to the product team and saying, we love your visitor ID technology, but what more can you do? Can you give us more device intelligence so that we can identify fraud, in greater coverage? And then also, can we, not only have greater coverage of fraud, but more accurately identify it, so less, false positives, along the way. And so again, not only am I hearing this, but it's something that's I think really being talked about and really starting to be more and more prevalent within our industry, that we need more signals in order to have higher fidelity within our data models, in order to make better decisioning, right, for those data models. So this makes sense, right? If you have more signals, if you have more information, you can make better decisions, right? So we really feel that not only are we hearing this from our own users, but the industry at large is starting to talk about the need for more data to make better decisions around, the combat against, fraud and bad actors. So in this case, I like to talk a little bit about, what we provide today, right? We provide this device identification, and we collect a bunch of raw signals. We then process those signals, and we provide a high quality ID signal, right? That visitor ID. And the most important thing, when it comes to being able to stop fraud is to identify it, right? So you need this visitor ID in order to identify fraudulent devices, fraudulent browsers. So then once you understand the fraud that's taken place and you've identified that fraud, you can then block that fraud. Without that ID, it's very difficult to block fraud. And so that's why as a product, traditionally, what we've done over the last 3 years is really focused on the ability to be accurate and really provide that 99.5% accuracy in our methodology of collecting all these raw signals again, processing those signals, and then providing that high quality output of that visitor ID so that our users can block fraud at scale. And again, we do this at scale today, right? We collect this information at scale, we process this information at scale, and then we provide this high quality identifier or high quality signal at scale. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to move from device identification into device intelligence and expand into the ability to collect all these raw signals, process this information at scale still, and then provide even more information, more signals, more fidelity to our users that they can ingest into their data models in order to make even better, decisioning against fraud. So we really hope that by expanding into device intelligence, by following where our users are taking us and asking us, and where the industry is going, that we can enable our users to have better informed fraud and identity decisions in conjunction with our visitor ID. So now not only can you understand and identify fraudulent bad actors, fraudulent and bad devices, but you're going to be able to know more about those devices to make even better data decisions on them. So again, device data as related to that visitor ID, network data and network signals as related to that visitor ID, bot detection signals related to that visitor ID, and finally user behavioral signals as it relates to that visitor ID. And again, just to hone the point here, we are uniquely, I think, set up as a product to be able to provide this value to our users, since we are already collecting, already data processing, and already providing signals today. Now we're able to do it not only for the visitor ID, but for all of these other ancillary smart signals as well. And so we'd like to announce smart signals, right? And so we believe this is our solution to providing our customers with the capability and with more data around being able to have higher fidelity in their data models. And so in particular, we're going to talk about a couple different sets of smart signals. We do have a whole new set that we're introducing today. We do have browser bot detection, right? That is something that we've always provided: incognito detection, IP geolocation. But now we're moving into a new set of signals as well that includes VPN detection, browser tampering detection, IP block list matching, raw device attributes, Android emulator detection, and Android tamper detection. So again, we believe that more fidelity, more information is needed at scale in order to have device intelligence that is going to be able to allow you to move at the speed of fraud and allow you to be as nimble as fraud is as it changes over time. So again, we believe that these are a collection of signals to provide deeper insights. And we believe that as they relate to our visitor ID, it's going to give you more defined detail and more data to make better decisions with your fraud models. So again, I'd like to say that we have had customers leveraging these signals already. We've had users taking in these signals, and they've been making great use of them. So in 1 month alone, we've already identified 4.3 million bad and 5.3 million good bots. So not only are bad bots important for many of our users, but also knowing about good bots is really important for our users. They want to know not only about when someone is trying to maybe scrape their content or be nefarious or have a DDoS attack in some way that's a negative, a malicious bot, but also friendly bots are important to make sure that their content is being indexed correctly, that if they're on a marketplace, the right bots are picking up their information. So that's a signal not only in terms of negative bots, but a signal also in terms that the bots that are on your site are indexing correctly and allowing organic traffic to reach you. 14 million devices in incognito mode. Again, we tend to see that even when it comes to unsophisticated bad actors, incognito mode is one of the easiest ways, right, for them to try to be hidden, right, or to try to hide from identification. And we, again, provide that unique visitor identifier that's 99.5% accurate and that can showcase and identify browsers and devices even when in incognito mode. So they can't hide. They're just unable to hide in incognito mode, even if it's the easiest first thing for them to attempt. And then finally, 21 million users browsing with a VPN. There are good VPNs, there are bad VPNs. There are some cases where you might expect users to use VPNs. There are some cases where you won't. What we tend to see, our customer base and user base leveraging VPN detection for is to make sure that folks are where they say they are, right? In terms of, are you in the country that you say, are you in the time zone that you say you're at? And if you're not, maybe that's an indicator of suspicion, or to challenge the user at the right time to say, hey, we believe that you look a little suspicious. We'd like to challenge you, and we'd like to maybe not block you, but challenge to make sure that you are someone who should be right within the product or should be accessing this information. So lots of different methodologies for leveraging VPN detection, depending on where you're leveraging it and your particular use case. Smart signals in general. So one of the folks that we've been providing smart signals to has been Checkoutcom, and here is some information about Checkoutcom leveraging it to reduce fraud, especially with payments. Fingerprint is a critical piece in our workflow, and smart signals will enhance accuracy even further. We're excited to expand our fingerprint usage to continue to identify fraudulent payments within our system, and that's again from Pierre over at Checkoutcom, one of the senior engineering managers there in their fraud space. So again, not only is fraud really important on payments, but it's also something that needs to be taken into account, we believe, right? Not only on your payment surface area as Checkout.com is using it, but you can also leverage it for your sign up page and as well for your login page. All right, so user behavioral signals. I'm going to go through a couple of the different types that we're releasing and that you can purchase and then you can leverage from us today if you need so. So the first are around user behavior in terms of leveraging incognito detection to detect if a user is trying to hide their identity or their history. Browser tamper detection to identify spoofing incidents, suspicious browser anomaly signatures. We have a lot of data on what looks like a good browser, what user agents look correct. And if folks are messing and tampering with those user agents or other signals on their browser, not just the user agent, but multiple other ones, we can tell if they're doing something nefarious. And for lots of folks within their businesses, most users should not be tampering right with the settings in their browser. They should look like a high quality trusted device. And then finally, Android tamper detection to ensure safe Android mobile application environments, just to know that that device has been rooted or not rooted, right? To make sure that that device is a device that you want your application running within. So we believe that it's important for you to know if your application installed on that Android device is in a secure environment or is not in a secure environment. Finally, network signals coming next, IP geolocation. So it's really important not only to understand the IP address and the information about the network, but then also to know where it's coming from, right? So we determine the actual location of that IP address. VPN detection, we've talked a little bit about this earlier, determining if a user is leveraging VPN to conceal their identity. And even if they're doing so in a way that's maybe very clever, to have alternative methods to detect this, such as looking at the IP time zone mismatch and see if that IP time zone that they're coming from actually matches their device's time zone as well, or their browser time zone. So another way to take a look at this and have some suspicion is to say, hey, are you going through and are you registered in a time zone that is not actually where you're geolocated according to your IP address? Finally, IP block list matching to determine whether an IP address is a known IP address. In many ways, we've had users asking us, hey, if you know that this network information is bad, if you know that this IP address is malicious, just tell us that, right? And so what we've done is we've gone out in response to that and collected multiple different sources, some private, some public, and consolidated them all together into one list that repeatedly gets refreshed and updated constantly, because IP addresses around the internet change constantly as well, to make sure that we are knowing when certain IP addresses are reported as malicious or known to be bad. And then when they leave that list, also to pull them out of that list, right, as well. Bot detection signals. So to understand browser bot detection, really making sure that we identify, both malicious bots, but also friendly bots, like we talked about earlier. And our bot detection technology, because it leverages that collection of JavaScript signals, especially within the browser, is really well suited for sophisticated bots. So whether that's understanding the bots that are executing and running to make sure that your content is indexed correctly, friendly bots, or malicious bots, systems like Selenium, right, or others that might appear to be human because they're a headless browser, but we know them, maybe to be more nefarious because of all the JavaScript and collection that we're doing on that browser to identify them. Finally, Android emulator detection. So again, right, to prevent spam and bot farms, we do a bunch of things to ensure that this device isn't just sitting on a shelf somewhere. And you might wonder why we're talking about Android here. Generally, what we see is that especially folks that are in the profession of fraud tend to use Android devices because they're cheaper, right, than iPhone devices. We do have iPhone SDKs as well, but we're really hitting the point here home on Android because that is where most of the bot farms, especially on mobile devices, are taking place, just due to the economics of purchasing Android versus iPhones. And then finally, device data signals. We will also provide 35 very interesting raw browser identification attributes. What we find this to be useful for are really users that are really dealing with fraud at a very, very, very large scale, and that also have very, very large models and believe that they can get even more fidelity by including an additional 35 different raw browser attributes. And so for those that it makes sense, we're happy to provide that information to increase the fidelity of that model if you have that scale and if you have that need to be that precise and have that much detail within your fraud model. So I'll jump over to the live demo next. Just zoom out of the way. So first we have a coupon fraud problem that we have set up here. And just to make sure that I am executing the demo correctly and the demo gods are in my favor, I'll reset this page. So first I'm going to add the promo code, right? And so you can see we're not logged in. This is some maybe promo code that you can apply to your maybe your listing. If you're in a marketplace and you're selling some set of products, could be a PDP page in retail such as this. And I've claimed this coupon 3000 or promo 3000, I'm sorry. And you can see that we've gotten a $119 USD discount. I'm going to go to the Black Friday coupon code next and enter that in. Again, we haven't logged in, right? We haven't done anything else. We haven't, we don't have a cart right here, obviously, but you can see that we still know that this visitor has already claimed another coupon recently. So again, we have the ability right here to say, oh, for this visitor ID, we know you've already claimed this coupon. If I was to, let me pull this over, open this in an incognito window, Fingerprint Hub, and I'll jump back over to the coupon demo here, and I might next say apply promo 3000 again and apply this. Apply. Let me refresh the page. Hopefully no one's blanked out the data as I was in between the demo here. Maybe our hub is down at the moment. It's possible as well, but I'll give it another shot. Or my internet is just slow. There we go. You can see that we claimed that discount. I'm curious if someone else has actually reset that information here, which I think is possible. I'll go ahead and click Black Friday. Yep, so you can see that we've already claimed another coupon. All right, I think what happened here is that just someone went to the admin page and probably reset it while I was in the middle of the demo. I think that's what happened. But as you can see, we can identify whether this person is claiming these coupons, whether they're an incognito browser or whether they're not in an incognito browser. I'm going to jump over to our Fingerprint Pro Playground, where you can see my visitor ID here, and you'll be able to see a couple things about this particular device that I'm on, or this browser. You can see that was here less than a minute ago. Here's the confidence score in detecting me in geolocation incognito mode. If I open this again, right, in incognito mode, you can see here that we can identify that you are incognito. If I open up, say, a VPN and I try to connect somewhere else, so in this case, in London, I'm over there now, I will say analyze my browser again. Now you can see that we actually are identifying that there is a VPN and a time zone mismatch. Same thing is true even, say, for browser tampering. So if I go to Chrome Inspect Tools, and if I go ahead and open up, say, and pretend to try to be a iPhone 12 Pro and analyze this browser again, you can now see that we also have identified that there's some kind of browser tampering that's also taking place. I will jump over to show you very quickly our payload response. And so we were just looking at browser tampering. You can see that in our payload response, we have this information, about Tor, VPN detection, proxy detection, that incognito mode, and then of course, tamper detection as well. So if I believe I'm still connected to London here, which is great. And if I refresh this page, you can see that I am not a bot, but even though I'm not a bot, we are in fact finding that there is a time zone mismatch true here. So we do believe that there's something wrong and the time zone does no longer match. And so I must be using a VPN of some kind. If I also open this and pretend to be an iPhone Pro and refresh this page, what you'll be able to see down here is that we do believe there's tampering detection that is occurring. The result here is true. And then the anomaly score is actually at 9532, which indicates that we have a 95% confidence score that this particular device, this browser, does have some tampering occurring with it. And that's true because I am pretending to be an iPhone 12 Pro at the moment. Just to make sure that I don't get disconnected from you on Zoom, I'm going to disconnect from my VPN here and come back into the webinar and hand it off to Kevin. Thanks, Kevin.
No worries, Jack. If you actually let me take a screen record, that'd be great. Thank you. Also, let me just jump in here. Awesome. Appreciate it, Jack. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about how some of our customers are currently using smart signals in a couple of case studies. So one of our customers, current customers, a payment provider, wanted to use higher quality signals to feed into their internal risk engine to reduce the amount of fraudulent payments that they are encountering. By using smart signals like Incognito detection and browser tamper detection, which are predictive of suspicious activity, they've been able to target more users intent on committing fraud, with the results being that they were able to catch more fraudulent transactions and reduce their rate of false positives overall. Another customer of ours, an identity solutions provider, needed a way to better prevent successful account takeovers that were slipping through the cracks. Given that most account takeovers are from individuals attempting to obfuscate their identity through a VPN or through spoofing their location, this client used VPN detection and IP geolocation smart signals to identify and mismatch time zones with the known location of trusted users' logins to flag suspicious attempts. Again, their result, a reduction in successful account takeovers, reduced manual review time for fraudulent, reduced manual review time for fraudulent teams, and increased customer satisfaction. And lastly, a high volume SaaS company of ours had issues with automated traffic and bots spamming their marketing driven signups. Using the bot detection signal, they were able to identify bots and their conversions and thank you pages in order to mark and block automated traffic, thus removing it from their lead pipelines. They were able to improve their predictability in their website analytics, increase their sales funnels performance, and reduce their infrastructure costs totally. So how to get started? Let's say that you are a current Fingerprint user or somebody that is not a Fingerprint user yet. Smart signals are part of the Fingerprint platform. They're available today in addition with our visitor ID and the identification signals that we're actually known for today. Smart signals are available on our new pricing plan, Fingerprint Pro Plus. Included is everything from our standard identification pricing tier, Fingerprint Pro, plus 5 new smart signals included browser bot detection, Incognito detection, IP geolocation, VPN detection, and browser tamper detection. With an enterprise contract, you get everything in Pro Plus the remaining smart signals like IP blocklist matching, raw device attributes, Android emulator detection, and Android tamper detection. If you're an existing Fingerprint Pro user, you can upgrade to Pro Plus within the platform or reach out to sales if you're interested about an enterprise plan. And those not on Fingerprint can try a 14-day free trial of Fingerprint Pro Plus with those existing 5 beginning smart signals. Just to kind of sum everything up, Fingerprint empowers your fraud engine to inform your most critical security decisions with the highest identification accuracy at 99.5%, a fast implementation with a single API call for real-time decisioning, and actionable intelligence for smarter, more informed decisions. Jack, we'll toss it back to you to talk a little bit more about what's next from our product team.
Yeah, I just want to comment here that we've had a lot of conversations with users, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback on all of these signals that we're providing and that we're announcing and that we're excited for folks to start leveraging. And we've gotten great information, right, on millions and millions and millions of identifications that we showed earlier. So, 12 million identifications, 24 million identifications on different signals. One thing we keep hearing from our user base, though, is that they want more behavioral signals. And so next we're looking at mouse movement, we're looking at typing speed, we're looking at copy paste detection, we're looking at potentially RDP, team viewer identification as well. So there's all of these additional behavioral signals that the team is really excited by, and that customers are saying, great, thank you for what you've given us, but we'd like even more. We'd like more of this. And in particular, we'd love more of these behavioral based signals. And so our team is excited this year to continue to invest in more behavioral signals coming up in the next couple quarters. Back to you, Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining. I want to make sure that you guys all stick around for a few extra minutes to get some questions answered. But just wanted to reiterate, you can get started today with Fingerprint to identify patterns of fraud and abuse, prevent fraudulent payments, improve decisioning engines, and limit fake signups. really your next step, if you're not a Fingerprint user, you can really try for free. Head on to our website and or click the link after we send this webinar recording to you, and you're able to start that 14-day trial with unlimited API calls. And then if you're an existing client, feel free to upgrade within the platform or contact our sales team for enterprise contracts. I will jump into the Q&A session if you're good with that, Jack. I'm going to leave this up. The first question we have, what is meant by friendly fraud?
Friendly fraud. I'm not sure. I think friendly fraud chargeback in particular. I think that's actually what we're trying to reference if you saw that within the material. And so what can happen potentially is that it's in reference to chargebacks and trying to avoid chargebacks.
How does browser tamper detection and bot detection differ?
Yeah, so I don't know if you noticed within the demo, but browser tamper detection actually was able to identify that my browser had a bunch of random signals that are not correct. It was able to identify that it's unusual given the large data sets that we have to validate if these signals go together, which is different from bot detection, where we're actually validating that there is a bot here. A bot could also be tampering with their browsers as well, and those browser settings. If that's so, we might provide both those signals and say both are true. We believe this to be a bot, and we believe that the browser signals are also being tampered with at the same time. So you still may have human beings, right, that are tampering with their browser settings. One easy way to do that we see is actually when folks go to the Chrome store and they download a user agent changer or switcher. And so our technology is able to identify, right, that that user agent changer or switcher through a Chrome extension, say, is changing their user agent, but they are still, a human being. We believe them still to be a real person. Hopefully that answers the question.
Awesome, thanks, Jack. Do you offer the challenge/CAPTCHA solution that you mentioned, or is that on us?
Yeah, the challenge is really an indicator for you. So we would provide that this raw set of signals for your model, for your decisioning, to determine when you should maybe showcase a challenge or showcase a CAPTCHA. Unfortunately, we do not provide a CAPTCHA at this point. We have done some interesting research into CAPTCHAs, and actually, if you're interested or want to talk more about it, I'd love to chat more with you, Ben. If you have some follow-up questions or advice or thoughts around this, because it's something our team is looking into. But no, today we only are providing the data. You can think of us as a data provider, and then you make the decisioning and then the challenge based on that.
Does Fingerprint plan on providing any signals to help identify good users?
We do. So you can think in some ways that if we detect that, this is a human being, right? We'll detect that we believe this is a human, not necessarily a bot. Although, of course, there's malicious bots, friendly bots, and humans, to be clear. Those are the three, I'd say, high-level types that we attempt to detect. If we do detect that it's a human being, and everything else is going well, like you don't see them using a VPN, you don't see them on a bad IP address, you don't see them tampering with their browser settings, the list of these signals tends to come back clear, then I think you can make some assumptions, hopefully that that's a decent user or a good user, especially if you know that they're a user using our visitor ID from previous, maybe a previous visit. You can, associate that and know that that's a good user based on previous visit history. But we also are looking into a consortium of data, and we're actually looking into building a new capability coming soon, hopefully this year, where we will allow customers to report on bad users, malicious users, but also good users. And so we're a little sneak peek maybe is to say, in the next couple months, we're hoping to provide a product to say that, a user has a good reputation as well as being a good user, and give you that information as an additional signal.
Great. How does bot traffic affect pricing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you may see that you get a higher indication of, say, some traffic spikes because bots come through. The pricing for our product, though, is the same. Even if you pick a different plan, the mechanism for the pricing is the same, which is per API call. So if you identify a bot, right, we would charge you for that. If you start to identify a set of bots, right? We would charge you for that. If you start to block those bots though, right, they would not render anymore. Most of our customers actually do DDoS and bot blocking protection from a WAF or web application firewall. And so they'll stop the traffic there. And once that traffic gets turned down, we don't charge anymore. Usually all of this is really planned out, right, from a contract standpoint. So if you do want to discuss different capacity and different volume sizes that fit your needs, we can work on that. And you can talk to our sales team on that. Or if you just want to do pay as you go, you can go with the Pro Plus plan or a Pro plan. And from there, you just pay as you need, right, per API call. So again, the mechanisms for pricing for our product really hasn't changed. The per API call or the contract volume discount are the two mechanisms for pricing still.
We've got a great one here. Is there a best practice for account sharing multiple signups from the same visitor ID, or is that purely a business decision?
I'm sorry, where was that question? Oh, I see, from John. For account sharing multiple signs, same visitor. Yeah, it really depends on your business, I think, John, if that's what you're getting at. What we tend to see is that some companies and products are comfortable with account sharing to a certain extent, but when it gets out of hand, then they want to crack down on it. What's very interesting is, given the current economic climate that we're in, what I tend to see now more often than not is account sharing as a spin-off methodology for new accounts and for growth. So right now, a lot of folks are actually cracking down on account sharing in order to try to think of it not as just a fraud issue, right, but also a potential growth opportunity to take maybe 3 people on one account and turn them into 3 separate users for your product.
Can I opt out? Sorry, can I opt into the consortium if I'm a customer of Fingerprint, or do I need to use the feedback API?
Yeah, it's a great question. If you're interested in the consortium information, that's something that's currently in POC and beta that we're running with a few key customers. You can reach out to us, and if you'd like to potentially be included on that list, we'd be happy to talk to you. But again, the consortium is going to be a future release this year. But again, if you'd like to, maybe help us in terms of honing the consortium response and the API responses and the different types of fraud that we're identifying, we'd love to have that chat with you. Many different companies have many different ways to have taxonomy of fraud, which is what we're working on right now, and why we're discussing this with very large, high volume customers. But also the Federal Reserve actually has a fraud identification model and fraud taxonomy model that we're leveraging as well. So again, if you want more information on it, if you're interested in participating in that pilot, we'd be happy to discuss it more with you.
Just a couple more here. This one's from Neil Jack. Do you have any statistics on the FAR, FRR of these signals, or phrased differently, do you have any statistics on how often good users are detected as fraudsters?
So it all depends upon your model. So again, you might be a good user and you're still on a VPN. That's totally possible. It's more unlikely maybe for you to be a good user and for you to be tampering with your browser settings. That seems to be even more unlikely. But it all depends on, I think, your business case in order to say who is a fraudster or who is malicious or who is a high risk. We do not provide you with a risk score. I just want to be clear upon that. What we do is we provide you with a bunch of data and signals about that device and about that user in order to give you more device intelligence. And then you usually plug that into some decisioning matrix or into some kind of fraud policy rules engine that then determines a risk score. And then your business takes that risk score and decides for your business, for your use case, for the pages that you're protecting, maybe your payments page, your login page, your sign up page, what is your particular risk threshold, and what are you willing to leverage in terms of challenging that user or blocking that user at the end of the day. We do provide, in terms of our anomaly detection and our signals, we do provide confidence scores alongside those results, so we can tell you how confident we are, right, in the detection that we're making, just like we provide a great confidence score in the visitor ID to say we are 99.5% confident that this is the same visitor that's come back previously. So again, that decision is really on you to create a risk profile and to create a risk score. What we do is we really provide you with all the data and the information for you to make that risk assessment for your business case and for your product.
Great, we've got a couple more here. How do you detect hijacked system API calls that returns false device information and signals? Is there any false positives in Android emulator / tamper detection?
Yeah, there are false positives in all these signals. So there are false positives that we see, and with the volume that we have of that information data, we're constantly refining and reducing those false positives. It's a testament to our visitor ID technology, right? That we have been able to reduce those false positives down so far so that we're 99.5% accurate. And we do that as well. In terms of Android emulator and tamper detection, I'd say there are false positives, of course, but they're so low. Especially I think for tamper detection, because we see such a wide swath of data that we have a really great understanding of what devices are out there on the internet, what those devices should look like, and what a normal quote unquote device looks like. For Android emulation detection, right, that is something that we are leveraging multiple different techniques and trade secrets, and even with hijacked systems. Like, so again, I talked a little bit about like remote desktop protocol or TeamViewer. We're even looking into trade secrets and different things and different techniques we can use to identify those. Of course, the further you push this out, the higher the false positive rate will be. But again, we have drastically reduced the false positive rate down to 99.5% accuracy on our visitor ID.
Great. Awesome, Jack. I appreciate you taking the time to answer these questions. I want to say thank you, everybody, for joining. This was a great time. We really enjoyed this, and you will hear from us in the future about smart signals. We'll have a couple more webinars coming later in the summer, probably diving a little bit deeper into each of the signals themselves. But again, thanks everybody for showing up, and that concludes the webinar.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.